Ethics is the discipline that examines one's moral standards or the moral standards of a society. It asks how these standards are applicable to human life and whether these standards are reasonable or unreasonable. It means whether they are supported by good reasons or poor ones. Thus, it can be said that a human being starts learning ethics when he or she takes moral standards absorbed from family, friends or religious places.
Ethicists use the term ethics to refer primarily to the study of morality, as chemists use the term chemistry to refer to a study of property of chemical substances.
Although ethics deals with morality, but it is not same as morality. In fact, ethics is a kind of investigation, whereas morality is the subject matter that the ethicist investigates. Morality is a standard that an individual or a group has about what is right or wrong and good or bad. Moral standards include norms which are used to judge an action as morally right or wrong. They are also used to place a value for a person, object, idea or event.
Ethicists have suggested 5 characteristics of moral standards. These are: first, moral standards deal with matters which are dangerous or beneficial to human beings. Second, moral standards are not established or changed by authoritative bodies. The validity of moral standards rests on the adequacy of the reasons that support and justify them. Third, moral standards should be preferred to other values, including self-interest. Fourth, moral standards are based on impartial considerations. And fifth, moral standards are associated with special emotions and a special vocabulary. Ecological ethics. An ecological system is an interrelated and interdependent set of living and non-living components of the environment. Living components include plants, animals and microorganisms. A lake is an aquatic ecosystem which is made up of non-living materials like water, soil, air, etc. Animals like fish, snakes, small aquatic organisms and aquatic plants like algae, lotus, water chestnut, etc. Here, the fish depends on small aquatic organisms which in turn live off decaying plant and fish waste products. Various components of an ecosystem are interrelated. Therefore, the activities of one of its parts affect the activities of other parts. Because various components are interdependent, the survival of each part depends on the survival of the other part. For example, we require oxygen for our respiration, which in turn gives energy to survive as well as to work. In the environment, oxygen is produced by photosynthesis, which takes place in the green pigments of plants. The removal of plants, especially the trees, will reduce the production of oxygen, which ultimately affects the survival of life. We human beings are the part of larger ecosystem.
Since we are more developed and more advanced creature of this earth, therefore, it is our moral responsibility to protect the welfare of human and non-human components of the ecosystem. This philosophy is oftenly known as deep ecology or environmental ethics.
Ecological ethics is based on the idea that non-human parts of the environment deserve to be protected for their own sake, regardless of whether they benefit human beings. Many supporters of this philosophy have extended their views in these points. The well-being and flourishing of human and non-human life on earth have value in themselves. These values are independent of the usefulness of non-human world for human purposes. Richness and diversity of life forms contribute to the realization of these values and are also values in themselves. Humans have no right to reduce this richness. The flourishing of human life and cultures is compatible with a substantial decrease of human population. The flourishing of non-human life requires such a decrease. The present human interference with the non-human world is excessive and the situation is rapidly becoming worse. Therefore, the policies must be changed to protect the ecosystem. The ideological change is mainly that of appreciating life quality rather than adhering to an increasingly higher standard of living. Those who subscribe to these points have an obligation, directly or indirectly, to participate in the attempt to implement the necessary changes.
Thus, an ecological ethicist would claim that the welfare of at least some non-humans have an intrinsic value. It means that environment is worthwhile in itself. It is not an instrument to be used as a means to an end. And because of this intrinsic value, we humans have a duty to respect and protect them.
Every form of life has value regardless of its worth to human beings. Moral theories supporting nature. We have three theories which are plausible systems to natural components and beings. These are utilitarianism or consequentialism, virtue ethics, and deontology.
Utilitarianism puts a model of humane treatment of non-human life with a view that the pain suffered by non-humans is too much. If calculating non-human pain is not sufficient, then it is difficult to define non-human flourishing.
In this condition, the concept of higher pleasure can be applied to animals or ecosystems as a standard for sustainable conditions under which they flourish. Here, it is important to note that the flourishing of non-human being should not be judged as flourishing of human beings. This is absolutely true when the non-human being in entire ecosystem is likely to be jeopardized by development that will enhance human survival and pleasure.
In virtue ethics, moral ground is higher and provides a perspective from which value of environment is judged apart from their use for human beings. And because of this, virtue ethics is much more promising.
Therefore, children should be taught to value the environment as an expression and extension of what is best of their character. Without an appreciation of and respect for nature with moral and aesthetic seriousness, our own flourishing is not possible. In fact, our behavior towards nature reveals our human traits like sensitivity, humility, and gratitude.
According to deontology point of view, natural beings should be granted the status of persons in the same way in which human beings are persons. This can be done only with competent and adult representatives, similar to the ways in which the human personhood of children and adults with deficiencies is represented by parents and guardians. Mere stewardship or trusteeship of ecosystems will not be sufficient to protect them.
If the ecosystem is getting the status of a person, then depriving it from the life or assaulting its inhabitants would be of equal crimes of murder or assault committed against human beings. There are reasons for granting the status of persons to non-human beings, like ecosystems and their components are living beings like human beings. Therefore, they are entitled to the same rights as human beings are entitled to have. All the living beings have some state of affairs, primarily their ongoing life or their sickness and death as natural beings. Thus, natural beings have positive interests as do human beings. The independence of natural beings is analogous to the independence of a human child, not like a fetus who requires the support of a particular individual. A number of human beings are compassionate towards natural beings as they do for other humans. They feel sufferings when the natural beings are injured and are happy when they flourish. Compassion is a motive to curtail sufferings and promote the flourishing of natural beings. The natural beings suffer when they are injured or destroyed, similarly to human beings. This is an important qualification for admission to the realm of persons, because the one secular basis for universal human rights is the capacity to suffer. The most important values of human development and flourishing are granting personhood to ecosystems and natural beings. Indian ethos for environmental conservation.
It has been an ancient Indian tradition to protect all natural components and resources. Indians have always valued mountains, forests, trees, and several species of plants and animals.
Indian Hindu religion and tribal culture observes the images of gods and goddesses in natural components. The peepal tree is considered as another form of Lord Krishna. In Maharashtra, the banyan tree is venerated once a year by tying a thread around it as a symbol of respect. The tulsi plant is grown in every house in India. People value certain species of plants as they are valuable for their fruits and flowers. The mango tree is protected for its fruits. The mahua tree is considered as valuable for tribal people for its edible flowers to prepare alcohol and oil from its seeds. Many plants, shrubs, and herbs are used as medicinal resources by Indian people. A number of animal species are venerated as the Vahan or vehicle of different gods and goddesses on which they are said to travel through cosmos. As per Indian mythology, the elephant is associated with Ganesha. The elephant-headed Ganesha is also linked with rat. Lord Vishnu is associated with eagle. Lord Rama is having relationship with monkeys. The sun god Surya rides a horse and has a superb chariot on which he moves through the sky. The lion is associated with goddess Durga. Further, cow is associated with Lord Krishna and snake is associated with Lord Shiva and Vishnu. The swan has relationship with Saraswati. Lord Vishnu's incarnations have been represented as taking various animal forms like a fish, a tortoise, a boar, as well as a half-man, half-lion form. Plants also have religious significance. Tulsi is linked to Lakshmi and Krishna. The tulsi plant is associated to worship of one's own ancestors. Lord Buddha attained enlightenment under the peepal tree.
The conventional societies of the past showed the ethical values of these components of nature and also conveyed the message to protect nature.
The ethical basis of environmental education. The Honorable Supreme Court of India has ordered that all the young individuals at school and college level be educated to course on environment. This course is not only required to provide knowledge but also for the development of skills and actions of young individuals to protect the environment. This can be done by creating love for nature.
Today, our educational system has been designed in such a way so that the seed for love of nature can be germinated. Today, it has become essential to develop a value system based on environmental concerns. This system is required to develop a thought among the citizens of the country that human survival is not possible without balanced structure and functioning of nature. It has always been our culture to extend highest regards to every component of nature, and this philosophy is relevant even today.
Once Mahatma Gandhi said that man's needs but not greed can be supported by our earth. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi had deep insights for conserving the natural resources. He put an example of his own to teach others so that they will realize the value of natural resources. His simple way of living conveyed a message that simplistic living could save the earth's resources. Shanti Niketan, a university which was founded by Sri Ravindranath Tagore, was based on environmental philosophy. Tagore's philosophy focused for a harmonious relationship between humans and environment. He thought that young people must be exposed to nature. According to him, the learning centers should be established in remote forests and celebrations of nature should be done through music, dance, drama and poetry. He started Vriksharopan way back in 1928. In fact, the philosophy of Shanti Niketan is now accepted as the route to environmental education. Today, we have moved ourselves quite far from nature. This is one of the important reasons about our ignorance with respect to value of nature for our survival. The Indian philosophy of karma is based on the belief that the soul moves from one form of life to another. This idea brings the concept of oneness among all forms of life. Ahimsa or non-violence towards life provides our country its basic philosophy, which was propounded by Hindu philosophers and later supported by sages like Buddha, Mahavira and Mahatma Gandhi. This brings the notion that animals are not supposed to be viewed purely for their utility value, but as a part of the earth's oneness, which is linked with other forms of life.
Therefore, at present we are required to understand the value of harmony with nature, to respect the nature's great oneness. This can be possible only if we are having an effective system for environmental education.
The destination of environmental education. Every educational system is required to develop the human being. If education is done the job of all-round development of human personality, then there is no need of instituting the environmental education, because a balanced personality loves the nature and never does anything which is against the existence of natural components. But the present scenario seems quite different.
Whatever the reasons may be, our educational system is not doing what it should do. As a result, our so-called educated society is not in harmony with nature and the local environment. Therefore, we need an effective environmental education for developing a rational thinking for nature, a positive feeling towards natural components and phenomena, and right action for the protection of local environment.
Finally, the environmental education should inculcate the orchestral form of these three aspects: thinking, feeling and doing for nature by the youth of country to make them value-oriented citizens.